Today I want to talk to you about something a bit more serious, and it calls for a desperate restructuring of our current economic landscape. Whilst I was reading An Economy of Wellbeing by Anilsky, I was confronted with a scary piece of evidence, which noted for every 1% increase in unemployment, there is a 0.79% increase in suicide rates. And I noted that the book was published in 2018, so I wanted to find some more present data. So I headed over to the National Institute of Health website, and I found that the evidence is even more disturbing. For every 1% increase in unemployment, there's an increase of 0.99% in suicide rates in America. Now, in Australia, the evidence behind the relationship between unemployment and suicide rates is also stark. Looking back at 2020, when the unemployment rate hit 7.4%, the suicide rate also spiked to 12.1 per 100,000 people. And I'm just looking at my notes here and here. And the question arises, if we then strive to reduce inflation, are we subsequently killing people? And to understand this question, we have to look at the Phillips curve, which is a graph governments and economists use to measure the inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. And so if inflation decreases, it would imply an associated increase in unemployment. The relationship simply suggests a trade-off between inflation and unemployment. And after reading about income inequality amongst Australians in 2022, which reported 84% feeling dissatisfied, I wanted to find if there was a relationship between inflation and the Gini coefficient, which is simply the statistical measure of economic inequality in a population. And after hours of research, I have my findings here. And so we'll just streamline this. 2020, the inflation rate was 0.85%. The Gini coefficient was 0.324. 2021, inflation was 2.86%. The Gini co was 0.613. 2022, the inflation was 6.6%. Gini coefficient 0.7. 2023, where we saw a decrease in both, inflation was 5.4%. The Gini coefficient was 0.674. Now, therefore, every 1% rise in inflation, there is an average 0.077 rise in income inequality. And you may be wondering how I work this out. Well, I added the increases together of the Gini coefficient, and then I subtracted the decrease, which gave me 0.35. I then did the same with inflation, which gave me 4.55. So then I did the total Gini increase divided by the total inflation increase, which gives you 0.077. And you may be wondering, how is this relevant? Well, in this unsettling reality of our economic landscape, the Phillips curve reveals a scary trade-off between inflation and unemployment. But it's not just a mathematical equation. It's a stark choice between life or death, or the perpetuation of crushing inequality. Picture this. The levers pulled by economic decision makers determine whether someone loses their life or is left to starve. And again, here's my notes. This isn't hyperbole. In 2020, a haunting 12% of Australians went without food, and a staggering 22% reported being unable to afford their medications. This doesn't have to be the case. In simple terms, we need a well-being economy because it focuses on what really matters, people's well-being. Unlike old models like the Phillips curve that forced tough choices, a well-being economy measures the right things. It guides us towards positive outcomes by putting people first, considering everyone's needs, and making decisions that help everyone thrive. It's about creating a future where our economy works for everyone, and it's about ensuring a better life for each of us. Just a bit of food for thought again. I really do hope that's the same. Anyways, peace and love.